Sakura, you look troubled. What's on your mind this evening?
Professor, I've been reading about Japan's overtime pay situation, and honestly, it's quite shocking. Did you know that 1 in 3 truck drivers in Japan reported their income decreased because of reduced overtime?
Ah, yes, the logistics industry. It's a fascinating case study of how labor reforms can have unexpected consequences. You see, Sakura, Japan's 2024 logistics problem isn't just about regulations. It's about how deeply overtime pay has been woven into workers' income structure.
So workers were essentially depending on overtime to make ends meet?
Precisely. For decades, base salaries remained relatively low, with the expectation that overtime would supplement income. When the 2019 labor reform laws finally set strict overtime limits, 45 hours per month as standard, it exposed this vulnerability. The X-Mile survey found that 34.8% of truck drivers experienced income reduction.
That's a systemic problem, not just an individual one.
Exactly. And here's where it gets more complex. The same survey showed that 11.4% of drivers reported their working hours actually increased, but their income stayed the same. It reveals how inconsistently these reforms have been implemented across different companies and routes.
Wait, Professor, this reminds me of something I read about working women in Japan. Isn't there a similar structural issue?
Very astute observation, Sakura. The overtime issue intersects significantly with gender equality. A Keio University professor described the situation quite bluntly. Under Japan's long-hours employment system, only superwomen can successfully balance career and family.
That sounds incredibly harsh.
It is. Women face what researchers call a double burden. They're expected to work like men at the office, performing equally long hours, while also shouldering housework and childcare responsibilities at home as if they were full-time homemakers. The statistics are telling. Even between 2015 and 2019, 30% of women still left their jobs after having their first child.
So the reforms haven't really addressed this?
Not adequately. Here's a striking comparison for your international listeners. Japan's overtime premium rate is only 25% until you exceed 60 hours per month. Meanwhile, in the US and UK, it's 50%. In France, it jumps to 50% after just 8 hours per week. This makes overtime cheap for Japanese companies, removing the economic incentive to reduce it.
That's such a huge difference. But, Professor, I heard the government is now talking about something called work more reform instead of work-life reform. Is that a real thing?
You're referring to Hatarakitai Kaikaku. Yes, it emerged as a political response to concerns that strict overtime limits were hurting business performance. The administration even made it a policy priority to reconsider overtime regulations.
So workers want to work more overtime?
Here's the fascinating part, Sakura. They don't. When Japan's Ministry of Health, Labor and Welfare surveyed workers in 2023, only 10.9% said they wanted to increase their overtime hours. And crucially, their main reason wasn't passion for work. It was wanting higher overtime pay.
So the real issue is inadequate base salaries, not a desire to work longer hours.
Exactly right. Workers aren't asking for more hours. They're asking for wages that don't require overtime to survive. It's a fundamental misreading of worker needs by policymakers. Even Keidanren, Japan's powerful business federation, stated in November 2025 that overtime limits should be maintained.
That's surprising. I would have expected business groups to support loosening restrictions.
It shows how serious the structural problems have become. Both labor unions and business groups recognize that simply reverting reforms isn't the solution. Let me share an interesting experiment. Kochi Prefecture proposed raising their overtime premium from 25% to 50% for 1 year as a trial. If passed, it would be the first such initiative by a local government in Japan.
Why Kochi specifically?
Kochi faces particularly severe depopulation and declining birth rates. They're trying to create workplaces where diverse workers, including parents, caregivers, and those with various life circumstances, can thrive without excessive overtime. The results could influence national policy.
This connects to something else I've been thinking about. With Japan's working-age population declining, how can companies even function if they can't rely on overtime?
That's the trillion-yen question, Sakura. The Ministry of Internal Affairs estimates Japan has about 5.4 million people in latent labor capacity, 2.9 million women, and the rest men, who could work if conditions were right. The answer isn't more overtime from fewer people. It's creating flexible work arrangements.
Like what kind of arrangements?
Short-hour regular employment, for instance, where people maintain full employee status and benefits while working reduced hours or 4-day weeks. Yet only 15.9% of businesses have adopted such systems as of 2024. There's also the fundamental issue of productivity and process improvement, rather than just adding hours.
So, for international business leaders considering Japan, what should they understand about this overtime culture?
Several key points. First, understand that Japan still has the highest rate of workers doing 49-plus-hour weeks among G7 nations, even after reforms. Second, recognize that the low overtime premium creates a structural incentive for long hours that other countries don't have. Third, for logistics and certain industries, the challenges aren't just about individual companies. They require industry-wide structural reform, like addressing the multi-layer subcontracting system.
It sounds like Japan is at a real crossroads.
Indeed. The post-war employment model, built on employees willing to work unlimited hours, is hitting its limits against modern realities. Aging society, global competition, and changing values. The question isn't whether to reform, but how to transition to sustainable income structures and flexible work environments that don't depend on overtime.
Thank you, Professor. This really helps me understand the deeper currents beneath Japan's labor discussions.
My pleasure, Sakura. Remember, these challenges aren't unique to Japan, but how Japan addresses them will offer valuable lessons for other aging economies. You've been listening to Narrative Japan. Until next time, stay curious and keep listening for the whispers beneath Japan's economy.